these top recruits I'm talking to in high school, I'm like, y'all need to make sure, like, y'all can run the ball all you want, but I'm like, you guys have to become pass catchers. Like, y'all have to get involved in the pass game, because if we want these $100 million contracts or close to it and break the mold, like, you can't just be, you can be an amazing runner and that can take you a long way, but if you're an amazing runner and amazing pass catcher, like, you're unstoppable. I tell them all the time, like, you know, me and Jameer talk, like, if we want to break that, like, change the markets and everything that people are talking about, like, we have to continue to be on that high level of both sides of the ball, which is cool.
You know, I love hearing you say you.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's your dog. Time to check it in, man. We are looking at a clip from the Pivot Podcast. Shout out to the Pivot Podcast with our star running back Bijan Robinson, indicating, you know, being very direct that he would like to get a $100 million contract on his next deal. Oh man, it's a lot of money, a lot of money. So, you know, let's jump into this, man. Bijan Robinson is going into his third year, so he has 1 year left on his rookie deal, a 4-year rookie deal. And of course, you know, as expected, I'm sure the Falcons will exercise the 5th-year option. So, you know, technically we have 2 seasons before we really truly have to entertain this. But as we just heard, Bijan is already thinking, he's already plotting, and he's already putting it in the air. Like, look, I'm going to look to get a $100 million deal. He also mentioned in that clip that him and Jameer Gibbs have been talking about, you know, they pretty much, for lack of better words, want to explode the running back market. So, you know, it looks like we really may have to pay the piper when it's time to pay Bijan Robinson. And that leads me to ask and you know, and question, you know, hey, do you pay a running back that kind of money? Right now in the NFL, the highest paid running back on a per year basis is Saquon Barkley, who just signed a $41 million contract. He's currently making about $20.6 million per season. Now, Bijan did mention $100 million, and once him and Gibbs do come up for their deals, I do anticipate that they will be the 2 highest running backs in the NFL. So I really do think that I'm not gonna say think, I'm sure, you know, barring anything catastrophic, that they will reset the running back market. So, you know, just doing a little math here, let's say right now, say corners at $20.6 million. Let's say if Bijan gets $22 million per year times 5, that would be a deal at about $110 million total. Bijan Robinson is currently 23 years old. So by the time, you know, we have to pay him, he's going to be about 25 or 24. You know, if they pay him like maybe 1 year early, he'll be 24 years old. So still fairly young. But this is the running back position. You know, once these running backs, you know, get some years on them, get some tread on the tires, you know, hey, they're not always the most reliable position on the football field in today's NFL. But, you know, Saquon Barkley is kind of changing that narrative. He's 28 years old. Christian McCaffrey, you know, he's dealing with a lot of injuries. So I don't know if he's the best example to use here, but, you know, he's the second highest paid running back. And Derrick Henry is 31 years old, and he's still running the football like he's 23, 24 years old. The thing with Derrick Henry, he's built like a Mack truck. So, you know, his body can sustain a lot of hits and contact that the, you know, your typical running back may not be able to handle. But, you know, if you're the Atlanta Falcons, do you pay a running back $100+ million? You really got to ask yourself that. And of course, if Michael Penix becomes the guy we want him to be, you know, you'll also have to pay him during that Bijan contract. You're gonna have to give Drake London $30+ million on his next contract. We don't know what's gonna be the deal with Kyle Pitts. You know, he may or may not get a contract from the Falcons. We'll know around this time next year, of course. But man, Do you pay a running back that kind of money? Now, don't get me wrong. Bijan Robinson is a supremely talented running back. Supremely talented running back. And I knock on wood, but barring any injury, he's going to set all the Falcons franchise rushing records in franchise history without a doubt. But again, do you pay the running back that kind of money? Now, Bijan did make a very valid point. He said, hey, if we're going to, reset the quarterback, if we're going to reset the running back market, if we want $100 million contract, you got to do more than just be a running back in the sense of running the ball. You got to be a great pass catcher also. And Bijan is great catching out of the backfield. That's one of the things that enticed the Atlanta Falcons to take him top 10 in the NFL draft. He is great catching out of the backfield. He is a great runner with the football. And he has shown last year that he's becoming one of the best blocking running backs in the NFL also. So, again, supremely talented. But the question remains, do you want to invest that kind of money in the running back position if you are the Falcons? Do you want to do that? Do you want to pay Bijan and hopefully he can maintain the same level of play for the duration of that 5-year contract, which if you're doing the math, it would be a 5-year deal. If you were to do a 4-year deal, that comes out to be around about $88-90 million per year. But again, Bijan said he's looking for a $100 million deal. Or do you franchise tag him, when it's time to do the contract negotiations? Or, hey, man, if you're the Falcons, do you just say, look, hey, man, we're not going to pay a running back $22 million per year, no matter how talented you are, we'll let you walk in free agency or we'll trade you and we'll go right back in the draft and we'll get us another 21, 22-year-old running back and just restart the process. The thing about doing that, though, is if you take a player in the top 10 of the NFL draft, really any part of the first round, but especially a top 10 draft pick, you do not want to let the guy go after just a rookie deal. You don't want to do that under no circumstances. When you take a guy in the top 10 of the draft, that's a franchise pick. So you're drafting that guy with the expectations that, hey, this guy's going to be here for the next 8 to 13 to 14 years. So to let Bijan walk before you pay him his second contract, that would not look good on the front office part, because it's almost like, well, you didn't think of the fact that you're going to have to eventually pay this running back when you took him number 8 overall in the NFL draft. No, we got another year or two before we really have to get into that. But that's something to think about. Bijan Robinson has already been public about, what type of contract he's going to look for from the Atlanta Falcons in another year or two. And whether or not he gets his desired amount or whether or not the Falcons decide to re-sign him, only time will tell. But that's definitely something to think about. And, you guys let me know what you think. If Bijan has another spectacular year where he gets 1,500 plus rushing yards, 13, 14, 15 rushing touchdowns, and he gives you another 500-600, receiving yards. He eclipses 2,000 all-purpose yards. Hey, he'll make a compelling case for himself, and he'll make that decision even harder for the Atlanta Falcons, especially if the Falcons find themselves in the playoffs. So hey, let me know what y'all think. Do you pay Bijan that kind of money? Are you a person that thinks that Bijan is talented enough to warrant paying him that kind of money? Or are you the type of person that says, no way, Jose, I'm not giving a running back $100 million in today's NFL. I'm just not going to do it. I'll just continue to rotate my running backs in the NFL draft. So, let's chop that up in the comment section. I'm interested to know what y'all think. Do you give Bijan $100 million or do you say no? No, sir. No, can't do it. But make sure that you comment and let's have this discussion in the comments and talk about this. Bijan Robinson, $100 million, yes or no? Until next time, peace.